Today I'm going to share with you a really, really cool trick to make sure that you don't have to babysit your assistant, rather your assistant reports into you. My name is Tim Francis. I'm the founder of Great Assistant. My team and I have helped hire over 500 executive assistants for entrepreneurs across the United States and Canada. These assistants are typically working remotely for entrepreneurs who are also working remotely somewhere in the US or Canada. And the assistants are the mini-me style. Like, they're not just doing marketing, they're really kind of higher level, able to take over email inbox and tasks like that. Over a decade ago, I started hiring overseas talent, and I was brand new to being a leader, and I was also brand new to hiring remotely. So I had just a ton of questions. One question I had over and over again was, how do I know that my assistant is actually getting work done? I really don't want to get ripped off, but at the same time, I also don't want to babysit them. So I started looking all over for advice. And one tool I kept seeing was this idea of screen capture software. It was software that would capture not my screen, but actually the screen of my remote worker. I think it was like every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes, and then I could literally log in and see what they were doing at any given time. I gotta tell you, that sure sounded creepy. I didn't like the sound of it. I didn't like the fact that I would be really babysitting my assistant. Something about it just didn't feel like the kind of basis of trust that I would want if I was the assistant, kind of the golden rule type scenario. So I kept looking around and asking for advice, and I really wish I could remember the exact source where I saw this first, because I love to give credit where credit is due. I just kept seeing it in different places, this idea that, hey, maybe your assistant should just submit a daily report to us, the entrepreneur. So I started thinking about it, and I devised a system for having my assistant report into me every single day. I wanted it to be lightweight. I wanted it to be something that uncovered any issues they were having, and something that would also help me make sure that we were aligned on what the most important work was that they had to do day in and day out. And so I created the 4Q daily report. Again, that's called the 4Q daily report, which I'll share with you in just a moment. I started using the 4Q daily report pretty much right away, and I was blown away at how fast it helped me to see what my assistant was up to. It's now been over a decade, and I've used the 4Q daily report hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times with different assistants that I've had. It's been absolutely gold, and I've now helped hundreds of other entrepreneurs do the same. Although it sounds like a simple workflow is just to have a simple end-of-day report, even more deeply, I would say that it's really helped me to actually start to learn how to trust having an assistant, especially when they don't work in the same office as you. You know, they might be time zones away. And that building of trust has really freed me up to go and focus on the most important things. And honestly, it's also given my assistants the sense that, oh wow, I have a leader who trusts me. It really gives them a pep in their step and gives them the confidence to go and try other things within your team. Take those little mini managed risks that, you know, they're taking over more and more of the business that they really have to. You know, if they're going to expand in your business and give you more and more time back, they are going to have to try, you know, an ever widening scope of kinds of tasks. So what is this 4Q daily report? 4Q daily report is at the end of each day that your assistant is working for you, so not holidays or not vacation days, but just on days when they work for you or with you. You want them to submit you a simple message. It could be over Slack or some other direct messaging platform. Our favorite is actually something called Shanti. Or if you're not at that point yet, then however it is that you communicate, whether it's over email or Messenger or something like that. So in this daily report, all that you're looking for is the answer to these four, and I'll put my thumb out there. There's sometimes a fifth question that you may want to include as well, which I'll mention in just a moment. So the first question is, what did you do today? I don't need a second by second or detail by detail accounting. I literally just need a broad strokes, you know, uploaded blog posts, uploaded podcasts, sent invoices, whatever that's looking like. I just need a simple high level view of what they did. The second question is, where did you get stuck? And this is an incredible, incredible opportunity to discover how you can provide training not once a week, but literally every single day. And what that does is that helps to really free up your own kind of path, and it helps you to unbottleneck them really, really, really quickly. Imagine if you can now, instead of helping your assistant 50 times per year, you can help your assistant 350 times a year. the speed that they're going to learn is just going to go through the roof, which is really, really exciting. So that second question is, where did you get stuck today? So that might be a login that they needed. It might be they didn't understand something. They need to learn how to use a tool, something like that. So the third question in the 4Q daily report, the third question is, how can I help you? Now, sometimes you would think that how can I help you is actually just the same thing as where did you get stuck. But in fact, how can I help you might involve other items. Like, for example, maybe they didn't get stuck, but they're wondering, hey, when, are we working during Christmas to New Year's? Or, hey, when do I get paid again? I just don't remember. Or, hey, something came up and I'm going to need, an afternoon off next week. So it really broadens the scope of what your assistant may be looking for help with. Now, even if your assistant day after day really doesn't have anything additional to answer in that question, what I find that question does is it also not only supports your assistant, but it helps them know that you are someone who cares about them and you really want to know where they're at, and that, like, it's not a full open door policy that they could just like barge in and ask anything anytime, but it's kind of like just a constant open kind of energy. And I find that goes a really long way. You'd be amazed how many workers have really kind of felt beat up by their bosses, not literally obviously, but kind of like treated like underlings, treated like lesser than. And so there's sometimes actually a bit of a healing process. If you're going to lead your assistant the way that I lead my assistants, it's like we're equals, we're teammates, we're working on this together. I'm sitting right next to you. We're not adversaries. Like, we're not trying to like sneak around each other. Like, we're just kind of everyday people here to do good work. And I think that that third question does wonders to help reinforce that day in and day out. So the fourth question in our 4Q daily report is, what are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing tomorrow? What are you doing tomorrow is maybe sounds simple on the surface, and it is, but I wouldn't mistake the simplicity of it for the impact of it. What are you doing tomorrow? It actually acts in a few different ways. It gets your assistant thinking ahead and making some of those front-loaded decisions ahead of time, instead of just kind of waking up in the morning and just starting to answer email or Slack messages or whatever. Your assistant is kind of taking that moment, that one moment of pause to kind of think ahead, plan the day, and get ahead of any issues. So that, and sometimes an assistant will go to answer the fourth question, what are you doing tomorrow? And they'll realize, oh, right, I have to send that invoice tomorrow, but I don't have training for that yet. And so they'll actually go back and they'll change their answer to question 3, how can you help me? And now it's proactive instead of reactive. And so they may get ahead of the task, ahead of the curve, and be able to get things done that much more quickly. Another really, really important role that what are you doing tomorrow plays is it also has the effect of aligning priorities. As your business grows over time to one assistant, maybe multiple assistants, maybe multiple team members, and if you already have many team members, you already know this, is two of the things that fall out of alignment, or let's say fall out of order really quickly, are clarity and alignment. What should we be doing? Are we clear on it? Then are we aligned on where we're going and how we're going to do it? So when you ask that question, what are you doing tomorrow, you find out what your assistant believes is the priority for tomorrow. And when you receive that report at the end of the day, whether it's right away or the next morning, you can get back to them and say, hey, good point, that's very interesting. Yes, I think that is important work. I would say it's not the priority for today. Would you be willing to work on this other thing instead? I wouldn't say it happens often, but the few times that it has happened when I receive that report and I adjust what my assistant's going to be working on the next day or later that same day, all of a sudden, more than once I've had the experience of going like, oof, dodged a bullet there, or oof, I must have really fallen short in communicating in the first place if my assistant thought that was the priority. So that fourth question, what are you doing tomorrow, sounds very simple, but it plays a couple of really powerful psychological roles. So what was this fifth element, this optional element? I call this kind of like the forcing function. So what is a forcing function? So you're, when you sit in your car and you want to start driving, you actually can't put the car into drive unless your foot's on the brake, right? And oftentimes you can't even start your car unless your foot's on the brake. The engineers at the auto manufacturers figured out that that would be a great safety feature by preventing you from really being able to drive anywhere unless your foot's on the brake first. God forbid you start your car, it's in drive, and all of a sudden it flies, through the shop window or through the garage door in front of you, right? So that's what a forcing function is. So I think it's always clever when we can put forcing functions into our business, whether it's causing our customers to do the right thing or helping our staff be really effective from the get-go. So this fifth question, because to me, again, I don't want to chase after my assistant. I'm sure they don't want to be harassed by me on minute administrative things. So I really don't want to babysit them on tracking their time. So that's why the fifth question is, did you track your time today? And that's just a yes or no. And that becomes a forcing function, because if they haven't tracked their time for the day yet, they're going to go and see that question and go, oh, shoot, right? And they'll go back, put their log time in. Maybe you're using a tool like Toggle or Harvest, one of the time tracking tools like that, if your assistant is hourly, of course. And now, instead of them trying to remember at the end of the week or the end of the month, like, oh, how much did I work on that day? It becomes very fuzzy, very difficult, takes 5 times as long. Whereas if we're doing it each and every day, obviously it's way more accurate, it's way less work, and for you as the leader and employer, you are not going to have to be dealing with a bunch of curveballs or headaches or inaccurate time sheets. So those are our 5 questions in the 4Q daily report. I'll go over them once more. The first one was, what did you do today? The second question is, where did you get stuck? The third question is, how can I support you? Fourth question is, what are you doing tomorrow? Fifth question is, did you track your time? When you put those in place, you will find that your assistant reporting into you with the answers to those 5 questions will dramatically improve the speed and accuracy of the work with your assistant. The ability for you two to work together will go through the moon. The trust is going to expand, and it'll really set a nice cadence for you and your assistant. Again, my name is Tim Francis from Great Assistant, and I sincerely hope that this video has been helpful. If you did find it to be helpful, do consider liking it, consider subscribing, and if you found it to be helpful, even consider sharing this video with a fellow entrepreneur. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.